Hi everyone, my name is Maria Toka. I'm a freelance graphic designer and this video is for you if you want to learn graphic design yourself without going to design school, or if you're already a graphic designer but you want to challenge yourself and try something new before you get too bored with doing the same things over and over again, in case if your work is very boring and repetitive. That might happen with us designers. So yeah, learning design on your own can be tough, especially if you didn't go to design school. There's no feedback loop, no structure, just you, your work, and a bunch of doubts. Client projects don't always help either, especially when the work is simple or repetitive and you don't feel like you're growing. And that's why I think it's important to take responsibility for your own growth as a designer. In this video, I've put together 10 graphic design exercises that can help you do exactly that. Sharpen your eye, develop your style, and stay creatively challenged outside of client work. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first exercise idea is called one font, which means that you limit yourself to using only one font. I mean one font, not one typeface, because there are typefaces with an entire family of different fonts, different weights, different styles. And this is cheating, because some of them may look like completely different fonts, but the point of this exercise of using the same exact font of the same weight and to achieve that visual balance and hierarchy with other ways, such as scaling, tracking, the size of the font, and the placement where you place the text. Basically, you're just experimenting with different layouts. Typically, I'd recommend you choosing a very simple font, one of the standards, for example, Helvetica or Times New Roman, something like that, because the point is not to pick the fancy decorative font. The point is to achieve the balance with the right layout. So you just use the same text, just ask ChatGPT to come up with a brief, a few layers of hierarchy for your poster. There should be a title, subtitle, body text, maybe 2 layers of body text, something like that, and the smallest text. The same font, and make it black and white as well. Don't use any other decorative elements, just play with different layouts. The more layouts you create of seemingly the same poster, like the same brief, the better it is for you, because you will explore how far you can think of in terms of the layout. And it's much easier to do that in Illustrator, because in Illustrator you can create multiple artboards at the same time and you don't need any decorative effects and stuff like that. You are more than welcome to use grids. It's also really easy to do that in Illustrator. They will definitely help, but it can also be more messy and chaotic layout if you prefer that, something a bit more creative. Now, the golden standard is to start with grids, probably. And this exercise mainly helps you develop those typography skills when you figure out how the rhythm, spacing, contrast works, the hierarchy, how to highlight something and create that visual flow when you look at a poster as a viewer. The second idea is ugly poster redesign, or an ugly flyer if you prefer. Basically, you just need to find some ugly design in your daily life, in a public place. If you see any sort of ad or announcement poster or a flyer, and oftentimes they're not great, and you just take a picture of it and redesign it at home, just as simple as that. I did that multiple times, and it's really fun when you don't even need to ask ChatGPT to come up with a realistic brief, because you already have the most realistic brief, a poster that already exists, something that is actually being used. But you're gonna try your skills to make it look a lot nicer, and your task is not just to make it look prettier. It still needs to serve the purpose, whether it is to announce something or to advertise, to attract a particular group of people, whatever it is it's serving for. And this exercise is also great for your typography skills, also hierarchy and layout. And on top of that, it develops your visual analysis skills and teaches you to notice stuff like that in your day-to-day life. Like wherever you go, you will start noticing all these printed materials, like how it's designed, if it's good or not. You will start to put a lot more attention to details like typography, which is great for your inspiration and just overall growth as a designer. Idea number 3. Again, about typography, and more specifically the hierarchy and the information architecture. it's even harder than the previous two because it specifically focuses on the information design, and your task is to organize text in the way that it makes most sense. And the task is to design a ticket. I would suggest you to design a concert ticket, but you can also make it for an exhibition show, for a theater, for a festival, for a conference, any sort of event that you like. Concert is just the simplest that you can think of. On one hand, it's utilitarian design because you need to convey the information. It needs to be legible, it needs to make sense, it needs to be clear. But at the same time, depending on an event, it may have some branding elements in it, which allows you to add more creativity and experiment a bit more. So yeah, this is a great exercise, and it's not as easy as you think because there's a lot of text that you can't just put on the side as it's something unnecessary. Because first of all, it needs to be clear and easy to understand by general public, not graphic designers. Aesthetics come second, unfortunately. Idea number 4, no white space. Yes, that's right. I'm suggesting you to design a maximalist poster. And I believe it's a lot harder to design it than a minimalist poster because white space helps you see some of the important elements that you want to highlight. But when they are all surrounded by other elements, it can easily get too messy and full of visual clutter, and it's hard to concentrate on anything. And that's the main challenge. Make it look decent and not too messy and overwhelming for a viewer. But on the other hand, it's really trendy now, so if you manage to do that, you're probably really good at design, and congrats. Again, it develops your skills of hierarchy in chaos, which is a bit harder than a regular hierarchy, composition and balance, and also your style development and visual confidence, because here you get to push your limits and go as bold and wild as you want to. You can try so many different textures, so many different layers, and no one will judge you because it's a maximalist poster. You can experiment a lot more in it. Idea number 5, focal point. A focal point means an area of a poster or a design, layout, doesn't matter, where we look at in the first second when we look at it. Something that immediately draws our attention. It's not necessarily an object, it can be a small part of an object or it can be a big object. So I'm suggesting you create the same poster 10 times, but each time find different ways to highlight this focal point. Let's say it's a title. There are all sorts of different ways how you can highlight it. You can just create an outline. You can distort this title. You can create a different background for it. You can decorate it with something. You can highlight it with a different color, which is much more vibrant than everything else. Like, the possibilities are endless, and you need to come up with at least 10 ways of how to do that. This is a great exercise for learning all the tricks, how to instantly emphasize something, and if you master that skill, you'll be able to easily manipulate the viewer's attention to navigate it the way that you need, which is exactly the skill that we really need as graphic designers. That's our job, to decide which element should stand out and which shouldn't. And this develops the skills of hierarchy as well, helps you to explore your style and to learn some visual tricks, which will be really handy afterwards. And idea number 6 is for advanced layout and grid skills, is to design a newspaper front page. It also helps you develop editorial aesthetics and voice. There's a lot of text in it, and you need to navigate a viewer's attention, where to look at first, which heading should be screaming at you, which one should be secondary, third level, and stuff like that. But in this case, you're probably going to use images as well, and the proper way to do it is in InDesign. As far as I know, when you design stuff like that, editorial design, InDesign is the best app for this. And ideally, you need to be using paragraph styles and all those tricks that people use in InDesign. But yeah, don't feel too much pressure. You can design it in any other program if you prefer. It can be based on real news or any other topic that that you want to present as a front page of a newspaper. It can be something fun. You can turn it into a personal project later and sell it as a print because it can look really cool. But I guarantee you those skills that you will learn from this exercise will be invaluable. There are so many different ways how you can apply it after that in any poster, editorial, layout design, like web design would be so much easier after that. I know it's not the same thing, but designing newspapers and magazines is a hard level. So if you start with that, you'll be able to do everything. Idea number seven. I called it grab attention at any cost. I think a perfect medium for that would be either an album cover or a YouTube thumbnail or a podcast cover. I'll explain why. So the main point of this exercise is to look at a grid of other similar designs. For example, if you go on YouTube, on your main page where you see an entire grid of different thumbnails and different videos, or if you choose any podcast or an album to listen to, like you need to make sure that a platform that you're choosing it from shows you all the album covers all at once and you can see all of them like in a grid way. And you need to analyze all that grid and to think, what kind of thumbnail should I design to stand out among all of those? Like it can be a specific color that you rarely see among all of those thumbnails, and you know for sure that if you used that color it would pop out immediately. Or it can be a certain type of a font, imagery, whatever it is. It needs to stand out as much as possible. And this is a really powerful exercise if your job has anything to do with advertising, because that is the main point, to stand out. And it's really hard to stand out when you're designing something without knowing the competitors. And you think that this particular color is really bright and, for example, I don't know, neon green. Yes, it may look really bright and outstanding when you open it in a Photoshop file, but when you open it on YouTube, and most of other thumbnails have this color, it's not going to stand out. And the same thing is with packaging design. When every single packaging screams at you with really loud colors, loud bold fonts, maybe doing something minimalistic would make it stand out. I don't know. You always need to analyze what is already there. And this is a great idea to start with looking at competitors and to come up with ideas based on that. Because usually you design something and only after that, when you place it on a mock-up in an environment, only then you can kind of see what it would look like on a shelf in a supermarket, if we're talking about packaging, or on a platform, but you don't really take that into account from the start. That's what we need to start with. So it helps you develop more bold design choices, something unusual, unconventional, something that you don't usually see among the competitors, sense of visual differentiation, also trend awareness, because when you analyze so many covers or thumbnails, you will probably notice some trends there, and it can be your conscious decision either to follow those trends or to go against them on purpose, instead of just blindly doing something that you don't know if it's trendy or not. You have no idea. It's better to know what's going on, right? And most importantly, the sense of contextual design, which is really, really important. Idea number 8, vintage and modern styles swap. This is one of the most fun exercises, in my opinion. And the easiest way to implement that would be to design a product ad poster. So you just pick a product which is really, really trendy and modern when it's been launched not that long ago. Maybe some of the technology product. It can be a service as well, but with product it's a bit easier. And design the ad for it in a vintage or retro, like really old-fashioned style, which would look a bit weird, but that's the point. And in a similar way, you can pick out an old and outdated product that nobody uses anymore and design it in a really modern style, maybe even futuristic style, which would also look odd, But that's the point. That will allow you to push the boundaries and explore different visual elements, how much they influence the visual style and our perception of it, how much we look at a design through the lens of time. So yeah, I think that could be a really fun exercise. As an example, I saw on Pinterest some of the ads for modern social media as if they were designed in the 60s or 50s, like very, very long time ago, like for Facebook, for example, or Twitter, Instagram, like something that couldn't even exist back then. So those ads, they looked so cool, I think, and so quirky, and I think this grabs even more attention than any of the modern posters that you can come up with for those social media platforms. So that could be one of the ways how to stand out. Idea number 9, font-only movie poster. This is again for typography lovers. It's not that easy. As you've noticed, most of movie posters, I don't know, 90% or 99% of movie posters use pictures or at least some abstract shapes, because when you rely only on typography, it's much harder to give a potential viewer an idea of what it's about. And that's your chance to try to use typography as a tool of storytelling. So you can view letter forms as shapes, as characters, rather than just sounds which mean something. So it's going to be a bit more than that, more than just a text. It has its own character, its own style, its own shape that means something. So it helps you explore hierarchy, composition, and negative space, also type pairing and styling. And idea number 10, which is the last one in this list, is called Show Your Mood in a Poster. You can treat it kind of like a visual diary. I think a good way to do this challenge would be to do it for a certain number of days, for example, for a week, where you will be tracking your mood that way. Like, your task is to express how you're feeling today through a poster. If you want it to be even more challenging, you can limit yourself by using only typography, but you don't need to go as far if you don't want to. The main point is to use different visual tools to show how you're feeling. I mean, how beautiful is that? Some people express themselves through their style, through fashion, what they're wearing. Some people express it in a video when they talk into a camera. Some people express it in the music they're writing, in a piece of text. You can do it in a piece of design, which is mostly like visual tools, right? With the color, with your typography choices, you will see that you can express your mood with different fonts, because apparently fonts can kind of have a mood, if that makes sense. I don't know. I've noticed that. It helps develop your conceptual thinking, stylistic experimentation, and develop your own visual language. If you are searching for your own style, I think that's an amazing exercise for that. All right. So the best thing about these exercises is that you don't need anyone's permission to start. You can do them between planned projects, on a slow day, or whenever you feel stuck. Let me know if you try any of this, or if you have your own ways of pushing your skills. I'm always curious to hear some new ideas. Also, let me know which one of these exercises you liked the most. I think I would try the font-only movie poster and vintage and modern swap. Those sound fun to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and see you guys next time. Bye!